Have you ever asked yourself why dogs bark and wolves don't? Well, wolves actually do bark, but we gave dogs the minds of puppies. Not only this, but we've also bred in a condition that in humans makes people alarmingly friendly, and we'll talk about it. I also have to show you this plan that some breeders have made to create a borzoi-wolf hybrid. Yes, this is one of those things where I just can't look away. It's kind of a slow-moving train crash. Dogs suffer from something that we like to call domestication syndrome. This is a hotly debated topic in which animals that have been bred for childish behavior start to look more childlike, including bigger eyes, floppy ears, and that also tacks on some things like curly tails and spots. Now we do see more primitive breeds, stuff like Shiba Inus or even Akitas and Huskies. Yeah, they do tend to look a little bit more wolf-like, and they also tend to be a little less friendly and less trainable. They're not as focused on their handlers. All dogs have a condition that in humans we would call it Williams syndrome. This is one where you see a few different gene mutations, and the result is a person who is extraordinarily friendly. It's quite alarming at times because children cannot tell the difference between someone who might be a threat and a safe adult. They love everyone. Yes, dogs have the exact same gene set, and more primitive breeds have more wolf-like genes. All dogs, by the way, have at least some wolf DNA in them. That's because they are technically still wolves. I would contest that because there's a lot of things that can make up a species, and that includes things like distance. Are you likely to see a dog engage with a wolf? If the answer is no, they might be a different species. I also have my own little pet theory that a Chihuahua is not a wolf. While yes, they could hypothetically interbreed under certain circumstances, they're very unlikely to. A wolf would most likely just consider a Chihuahua lunch. But technically that is defined as a ring species, where some of them can interbreed and not all of them. That's usually applied when there is some spatial difference. So some populations can interbreed, some cannot. Do know that species are messy. How we define them varies from scientist to scientist. We can all pretty much agree if you have a different number of chromosomes and you cannot have healthy offspring, you are definitely a different species. But then we have stuff like coy dogs. Yes, a dog could interbreed with a coyote. There's some question as to whether or not it happens in the wild or how often it happens, but yeah, it probably happens. But on to our friends, the puppies. Yes, dogs were domesticated anywhere between 20,000 and as long ago as 50,000 years. I mean, potentially more. It seems they've been domesticated several times in independent areas and independent times. Dogs are man's best friend. In the process of domesticating them, we picked out traits for friendlier dogs, and we ended up what we have today. Giving them Williams syndrome is kind of just a side effect. I'm sure nobody meant to do that, but now we have dogs that are extraordinarily friendly. It is generally agreed that dogs were domesticated somewhere in Asia. At least that's what the genetic flow would say. We also have some weird examples like the American dingo. It probably crossed on the ice bridge with people and then started feral populations. And yes, we have American dingoes. They are a breed of dog. They're also called Carolina dog. You can have one if you want one. Now, wolves can bark. Also, I just wanted to show you this Merle wolf dog. I don't know why we have to Merle and poodle everything. Puppies bark and whine, but we bred in childish traits. We gave them possibly an intellectual disability so that they would be more friendly to us, and barking is useful. It alerts people that there are dangers. Coyotes also bark and whine, and they do that when they are adults. I have a coyote in my neighborhood that I call Bertrand Russell. I don't have a good reason for calling him Bertrand Russell, but I like to go on night walks, and sometimes he'll just walk up along with me. He made it about 2 blocks the other day and then wandered off and then looked at me and whined and gave me a little bark, which I did read as kind of a friendly gesture, just saying, hey, I'm going. What's up? Which brings us to everyone's favorite controversy, the Russian fox domestication project. They took decades to try to domesticate foxes, and they found that friendlier traits resulted in more childlike features. They also got floppy ears and spots and curly tails. But why is it controversial? Well, this was done decades ago, and this was a point at time where science really hadn't matured all that much. People have the same problems with mouse utopia, poor record keeping, and also those foxes were not wild foxes. They were taken from a fur farm. It also hasn't been replicated, in part because it's just a really difficult project to replicate. Are you going to go take foxes from the wild? I guess you could, but there's not really a good source for lab foxes like there are lab mice. I will say the Russian fox experiment is still taught in college classes today. It is reasonable. Domestication syndrome has not been fully disproven. It's just a controversial area. Let me know if you ever want to hear about alpacas, because that's haunted zoologists for a very long time. Lastly, if you really want a pet silver fox, you can get one. The descendants of the project are still household pets today and part of breeding programs. They do not make great pets, they're not terribly easy to litter train. I guess it is possible to litter train them. They're also just not dogs. They will not love you like a dog. We're probably going to have to take hundreds, if not thousands of years of domestication to get to the point where a fox can be your little buddy. And yes, because everyone brings it up, it is pretty likely that cats domesticated themselves, and what I like about cats is that they only live with you because they want to. I hope this was interesting. Follow for more.